But let's begin this morning with surging gas prices as the war with Iran drags on. On average, a gallon of regular will now cost you $4.39. That's up 9 cents in just 24 hours. And a $1.40 increase since the conflict began. And CBS News has learned that the true price tag of the Iran war is closer to $50 billion. That is double the public estimate from the Pentagon. CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi joins us now to talk more about this. So, Olivia, we'll talk about gas prices in just a moment. But first, there's some breaking news about a new Iranian proposal to end the war. What do we know?
That's right, Vlad. We actually just learned that Iran delivered its counter-proposal to the U.S. amendments. This is from the latest proposal that the U.S. sent over the last week to Pakistani mediators. This just came across from our Imtiaz Tyab. He said that Tehran delivered their latest proposal. It's a revised response to what the U.S. had proposed in an agreement to end the war. The last Iranian offer had attempted to push any discussion about the nuclear details to a later date, but said that they would agree to reopen the strait. President Trump rejected that offer, so now this is the latest proposal. We don't have the details yet of what is in this proposal, but we do know it was delivered to the U.S. side last night, April 30th. And we also don't have a U.S. response at this moment. So that is some breaking news there. But of course, this is coming at a really interesting date because this is now the 60th day of the war in Iran for a conflict that the president said would last between 4 to 6 weeks. We have blown past that. We're now at the 60-day mark, and that matters because after 60 days, the White House, the Pentagon, they actually need congressional approval to keep troops in the region, to keep this war going. But now we've heard from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth saying that they actually don't need congressional approval because they're in a ceasefire right now. So therefore, it's an active conflict, and therefore he doesn't need to get that approval. Take a listen to him yesterday on Capitol Hill.
We are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pauses or stops in a ceasefire. So we're not in. Yeah. It's our understanding, just so you know.
Okay, well, I do not believe the statute would support that.
So you can hear Democratic lawmakers clearly expressing doubt about whether or not a ceasefire prevents them from having to get any further authorization for this conflict. The White House could ask for an extension for 30 days, but we're already starting to see some some support fracture on Capitol Hill from Republicans who feel that this White House needs to get their approval, especially as the conflict is becoming very expensive. By some estimates, up to $50 billion spent so far in just the last 60 days.
And you're talking about what the military is spending. Then we talk about gas prices, which are now at their highest point since the war began. Of course, those prices are being elevated by the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. Olivia, what is the White House saying to try to address this issue with gas prices?
Well, the White House is still trying to project optimism about this, right? Even as the conflict is continuing on. And you're right, Americans are really feeling that squeeze here at home, given the fact that gas prices have been rising. But the president has been saying prices are going to come down, prices going to come down. This is what he said yesterday about that specifically.
The gas will go down. As soon as the war's over, it'll drop like a rock. There's so much of it. It's all over the place, sitting all over the oceans of the world. And it'll go down.
But that's at odds with what people in his own administration have even said. His Secretary of Energy was on CNN a few weeks ago and said it's going to be until 2027 when we're going to start to see gas prices go below $3. They could potentially see lower prices by the end of the year, but this all depends on the conflict in Iran and whether or not they can get those gas prices down.
So, Olivia, thank you so much for that report from the White House. We're now going to bring in our Kelly O'Grady. I'm going to read all her titles. CBS News Money Watch correspondent, CBS 24/7 co-host, CBS Ding. Saturday morning co-host. Ding, 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 ding.
I wear many hats.
You wear many hats.
Yeah.
So many hats. Kelly, so we heard the president just say that once this war is over, prices will drop like a rock. How long will it take if and when this conflict ends?
So obviously, it really depends on how long the conflict goes on. It also depends on how much more infrastructure could get damaged if things do ratchet up between these two sides. Remember, we've seen refineries, oil fields close down, but they're also going to have to rebuild some of this. And that doesn't happen overnight. You don't just flip a switch and say we're back to full capacity. So that's one piece of it. The other issue is there's this question of, well, could oil companies just drill more? Why can't U.S. oil companies drill more? That also takes time. And they're sort of looking at the situation and going, how long are prices going to remain this high? Is it financially feasible for them to invest billions of dollars in order to create more capacity? Because if you have prices, I mean, Olivia was just talking about how Americans are feeling the pinch. If you have prices this high or higher for a sustained period of time, what are people going to do? They're going to stop driving as much. They're not going to go on those trips. And so then you're going to see demand go down. And so that's why these oil companies, you hear the president say, drill, baby, drill, and we want to produce more oil here. But they're kind of between a rock and a hard place because they need to think about their shareholders and a feasible investment. So I can't give you a specific time. It's really going to depend on how long this war lasts. But in theory, if the strait reopens, you would start to see gas prices come down.
And yet, the president says they're going to drop like a rock, and even his own administration, people in his administration say that's simply not true. Every economist that we've spoken to says it will take time, as you just indicated as well. But it is interesting because you got the president's messaging, which is that gas prices are going to come down, juxtaposed with the people that we've spoken to, including that gentleman who said it's costing him $75 a day. Every single day to put gas in his car. That is not sustainable over a long period of time. So we'll see ultimately how that shakes out. Just go ahead.
I do have a question. I know that in the U.S. we don't depend on oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz as much as Europe does, because we produce oil here as well. Why can't American oil be decoupled from the global markets that are increasing our prices?
I'm so glad you asked this. This was my entire day yesterday.
Okay, great.
I was talking to folks
Perfect.
about
That's why
this.
you guys are great as co-hosts of CBS Saturday Morning.
We are. Yes. Okay, so basically, we produce a lot of, you've heard shale, fracking, right? We produce a ton of oil here. We're a net energy exporter. But that oil doesn't power a ton of our American industries. So we sell that, and that's great for the companies here, but we actually buy a lot of the heavier crude. The fracking produces this sort of light, sweet, it's called the champagne of crude.
Okay.
But a lot of the industries, what goes into gasoline, it's more of that heavy, sticky crude that we get from Canada, we get from other places. And then just generally, when you have less of a supply of oil in the world and more people and the same amount of demand, your prices go up. It's just simple economics.
All right, Kelly O'Grady with the
Really
Econ 101.
That was really
Thank you so
interesting.
much.
I didn't know that.
I
that we
know,
only
the
produce
champagne.
The champagne of oil.
But
right
we
here
need
in
that black
America.
sticky stuff.